say they've seen the highest mountain, bottom of the deepest sea, but no one's ever seen a love like this. They could dig up all the buried treasures where it's worth more than anything, but no one's ever seen a love like this. Ooh.
I remember being in the back where I usually sat, and like God really just opened my eyes. And it was open in a very interesting way because my sight, everyone else, for like a 2 or 3 seconds, turned black and white. And the one thing that was in color was her. And I was like, wait, what just happened? It was like a spiritual experience. And when I saw it, I was like, wait, what is this? And I remember when she had like some black leggings on. She had on some sneakers. She had on a jacket. Like, I remember everything. And that really blew me away. And I was just like, yo, who is this woman? Who is, not girl, who is this woman? I need to know who this is. Let me do my spiritual research, right? And that's when it all started. And I remember actually when we had begun to speak a little bit in church, just, conversing, just small talk. I remember when she went to go to that New Orleans trip, the pastor called everyone on stage that was going to go. And I remember she was on stage and it was a line of like, I don't know, 15 people or so. I don't know. Just from that church alone. And she had on these Adidas tights. She had on some Chuck Taylors. And she had on a black and white jacket and her hair was in a bun. The whole church prayed over the people that were going. And I was like really praying for this woman. Like, Lord, make sure she's safe. Keep her safe. Aww. Give her the desires of her. Like, I was really praying for her. I wanted the best for her. Like, let her have a great experience. And then a part of me was kind of upset because I wasn't going to see her at the next service because she was going to be gone. I was like, dang, am I going to go to church next week? And then I was like, I got to question myself. Am I going for the right thing? Am I going to see this? Like, why am I going to church?
Immediately after prom, we started dating. From there, we stayed in touch constantly. I would go see her all the time. Sometimes I'm sneaking out of the house, driving. This is now I can officially drive my car now. And I would sneak to her house, and sometimes she would come and meet me or, whatever. And we grew together. And then she decided to go to college for a second. I'm going to let you take that part.
I decided, so this was after high school, so maybe a year, because I went to community college first, and I was working at the time. Matter of fact, we worked with each other, but I always wanted to go off to college. But here I am in a relationship, and it was a little too serious for that time. I'm still young. I'm 18, like
19 years
18,
old?
19, 20. I'm like, this is a really serious relationship. I need to go off to school. I told him, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to be leaving. I'm going to college. And I left. So I went to Arkansas, which is a UAPB, which is a historically black college. And he was like, I don't think he believed me. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm leaving for real, And his heart was broke. It was so broken. My heart was broke too. I was really sad, but I knew I needed to do it for me.
It was something she always talked about doing, something I knew even before we got together that she always wanted to do. So, and she went and did it.
So at the time, I wasn't interested in dating, nor was I very much attracted to my husband.
Clarification. I'm attractive. But I wasn't her type.
Yeah, I didn't see it then, honestly. I really didn't. And everybody else saw it. Everybody was like, girl, you tripping. If you don't date him, I will. And I used to be like, okay, well, what you waiting for? Go. Yeah, I went through that for a little while, honestly. And it took a lot of God to just release the veil. Because at that time, I was praying, like, Lord, I want to start dating again. Like, I'm a mother, I'm a wife. I know what you created me to be. This is who I want to be, but this is the type of man I want. And every time I would pray for a type of man, I was very specific. I would spell certain things out. Like,
You're not gonna tell this story again. She just
no, but I really would spell
she tells
things
the
out.
story the same exact way every time she tells it.
I'm not going to tell the whole story, but I would go in my prayer closet and pray. And at the time, I was like really rediscovering who I was, and also figuring out who my God was in order for me to know my identity. And I remember saying, okay, God, if you really give our heart's desires and you really give us what we ask for, this is what I want in a man. And I'm going to test you. I want a man who can sing. And he could do, he was on the list of everything. Everything down to can sing. And I was like, but that's still not my husband. I still don't want to date him. Mm-hmm. But I will say this. It wasn't until I was sitting in acting class and Ty walked in class and I was just sitting there, and it was like God took a magic wand and was like, ta-da. And I got so uncomfortable in class, like, wow, I do like Todd. He's attractive. I don't know what that was.
It was a leprechaun. No.
I can't stand him.
So I Googled Christian, how to get over a crush. Because I was like, I'm not going to be doing this. I'm not going to be doing this. So I was on Facebook too much, like posting extra selfies, and like he would like every one of them. I'd be like, oh my God, what is going on? And so the article that I read, that I found, it said, it's best to assume that a man has no intention to pursue until he says that he does. And that gave me a little bit of peace. I was like, you know what? He hasn't said anything. He hasn't been direct. He hasn't said anything. I'm going to get off Facebook. I'm going to stop posting. I'm going to enjoy my family. And when I come back, you know, if he's interested, he'll say something. But before I do that, I'm going to invite him to a housewarming party that I'm having when I get back. One little thing. And so I sent him that invitation and got off Facebook and came back in town. And he came to the housewarming party and everybody was having a good time. We're all hanging out. And he was the last person to leave my house. We were just like there talking all night. I even remember there was like a picture of him with like a friend on Facebook, and I saw it. You know, like you try to read into stuff. You're like, oh, what am I thinking? That's his girlfriend. And I had a friend, my friend Terrell. I was like, see, Terrell, he has a girlfriend. He's like, no, you like him. You like it. Let me see. He's like, nah, no, that ain't his girlfriend. That ain't his girlfriend. And I'm like, you know, trying to count myself out. But after the housewarming party, the next day he called me, or he texted me or something, and he said he texted me and he said that he needed prayer for something. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I called him to pray, and that, I think, kind of surprised him that I didn't just say, I'm praying for you. And when we prayed together, I'm very intense of a person. So when we prayed, it was intense. And then he didn't say anything. He was like, okay, I'll talk to you later. And I was like, you've officially scared a person? Good. Okay, Lord. Okay. And then the next day he called me. He's like, I need prayer for this now. I was like, okay, wait a minute. How many prayers you need?
And then it took, then when we realized that we liked each other, it was actually kind of a strange time because of the church that we were going to. They didn't really allow people to date. So I was 17, he was 18 when we met, and there was just like all these rules and everything. So we were like, we just want to, okay, so if we can't date, but at least we knew that we could always be friends. So it's like, but we really like each other. Why is this wrong? We really, so that added a bit of confusion, but through it all, we were Chris and Denisha since 1999. Like we've always been us.
Yeah, that part was challenging because we did have feelings for each other. We both did. We both knew that we liked each other, but it was kind of like a disconnect between what we wanted and what we were kind of being instructed that we shouldn't do. And we were young, so I get it. I mean, we didn't have careers or anything. We were in school, but we knew that we definitely liked each other and wanted to be, around each other. We just enjoyed each other's company.
I think that happened in the school year ran out, okay, and then we all had to go home. And normally, for me coming from another island, I had to go back to the island. But during the time between going back to the island, there was a guy from the same church that I developed an acquaintance with, so I was going to spend some time at his home until I was ready to go back home. And fortunately, the Lord so worked it out, that he was the one who was going to take her to her home. And so he said to me, "Do you want me to take you to the house?" I said, No, I'll go down with you, to her home. And then we got there and
come out of the car immediately.
Yeah, came out of the car and said, "Go ahead, I'll be home later." And so that was really the first time that we spoke, in any, freedom. Nobody is looking at you, and you're, like we say, you're not trying to steal some time.
With the date, it was actually a beautiful date because we went to this really nice restaurant. Then we went to this really nice movie theater. Like, we had a really great time. However, I could not get out of my own way at the time to see beyond just the friendship JT. And so because of that, for me, I did not enjoy myself because I was critiquing everything. I'm like, oh my gosh, why is he, please stop, stop doing the most. And he really wasn't doing the most. He was just being a gentleman. It's who he is. And so that's why the first date didn't go so well to me.
The first date was fine. I had called her sometime before, to just say, hey, it's like I had a feeling, So I called her and I just said, hey, I like you and I want to take you out, And I said, listen, we're friends. If there's nothing there, cool. Nothing's lost if it doesn't, become anything. And so she was the first like, no, I'm okay. When she finally calls me and says, it was about a week later, and she's just like, I will go out with you, and da-da-da. I was like, cool. It definitely, shifted my day. I will definitely admit that. I was like, yes, But, since it was a little ways off, I was just like, okay, we'll schedule it. We'll schedule it. So when we finally do, it's just like 2 weeks later, we finally go out. And it was an interesting day because, I did the things guys know to do, get a haircut, wash your car and stuff like that. Right. Just typical guy stuff. I got advice from like a good friend of hers to how to extra impress her. And it didn't align with the relationship that I knew. Yeah. I was like, well, she seems more like chill. But when we went out and we finally went, I did all the gentleman stuff. It wasn't a shift. It wasn't boyfriend. It was just, hey, And we went out to this nice restaurant, had a great conversation. It just, fortunately at the end of the night, it was apparent that there were no sparks and there were, our thoughts were in other places. So
I was just graduating college and, I had this future ahead of me where Dad had been married. Mm-hmm. And so my parents didn't perceive that that's the route I should go. He was married, he had a child. So it was like, kind of like, what are you doing? You can start your own, like your first, Mm-hmm. That was a tough season. It really was. And so during that time, we had to make a decision, like, are we going to stay the course? Because it wasn't so welcomed. Mm-hmm. And it was a little confusing because we had always been such good friends. And so it's like, what's all the opposition? But I understood it later after we had been together for a while. So that actually was probably the toughest season for us. But we were in love and we decided we were going to get married. And, when you have a situation like that, you're always second guessing it and questioning, like, if it doesn't work, well, they told me this, and but I just thought, you know what? The chances of it working are just as great as the chances of it not working. I didn't realize at that young age that all marriages go through stuff. You look at your parents, and then they've stayed the course for a long time, and you see them go through some stuff, but the realization that if this is something I want to pursue, let's just go for it, and I couldn't be deterred because it didn't look like what my parents visualized it was going to look like.
So no, I knew that he was the one when I decided to leave for college, and I was leaving, and like literally I got on, because I rode a bus, so I wasn't like on a plane or anything, and it was like something out of a movie. It really was. Because here I am on the bus.
Oh yeah, going down
and
there.
the bus is like taking off, and he's looking in the window. And it was really something out of a movie, and I was like crying on the bus, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this. He's just shaking his head like, wow, you're really doing this. Like, you're really leaving me. And I'm crying on the bus, and and I'm just like, man. And I really realized, like, at that moment, like, this is my husband. Like, this is who I'm supposed to be with.
As we started getting to know one another, and after Roscoe's, after me separately spending time with her son at the game night, and then we would do our scenes at her place, seeing that home life, it was like, oh, okay, the exterior, the hard exterior is just a front. And so that's what at least piqued my interest of me getting to know her more. And then it was like, okay, she's not as hard as she's trying to be. And then it just layers started to peel off, especially as, the things we had in common at the time. She was going through a divorce. I had been through a divorce. So it was like, even then it was still platonic. It was really friendship. Like, listen, these are the things you probably gonna experience, go through. If you need any help or advice, I'm here.
Yeah, during that time, I will say, like, it was like God sent me an angel. Because I didn't know, of course, when you're going through a divorce, you don't know what to expect. You don't know how to go through it. And I was in a place of guilt. And because he had already went through it, I would always have questions like, why do I feel like this? Or should this be like this? Or whatever. And I remember it was, honestly, him and Will were just a major impact on my life during that time. Like, they were like God sent two angels and just literally just helped me get through my situation. And that is when I started letting my guard down, because I had this hard wall up. But I was still fighting. Even when I had that unveiling, there was still like, I'm not ready. And the crazy thing is, it was like an oxymoron. I would say to God, when you're ready for me to date again, this is what I want in a man. But I'm still like, but I'm not ready. I don't think I'm there yet.
Guys over there like, you got to be quicker than that.
Thank God my parents came around, and his parents not so much so, but they were a little protective about some aspects of the relationship because we had grown up together. And so I knew his wife, his ex-wife at the time. I knew all that. So it was a little messy, if we could just be really transparent.
Yeah, it was a lot going on.
It was a lot going on. So that was probably, I think, that was probably one of the most challenging times early on, is getting through that season.
Because we had a bunch of ups and downs throughout all that. It was very confusing.
Yes, it was.
Like feeling a certain way, and then kind of like being told that almost that was wrong.
Yeah.
So it was a difficult time. But yeah, after I moved away, I was finally like, listen, we're either gonna date, and this is gonna go somewhere, and we're gonna start a family together, or that's it.
Yeah, I clearly remember that day. Like, he was very intentional, and like, I would like for us to date to see if we'll go our separate ways, or find out if we're gonna get ready to start a family together. And from that day on, it was very clear. No one else could say it. I guess we were courting.
Hey, courting.
We were courting. That's what you do in the 1900s.
But then I remember that second day too, because when he called me to pray, he said, "And can I pray for you too?" And when he prayed for me, it's like I'm like fire. And then when he prayed, it was like water. And I just remember just feeling like peace. I mean, I was like, whoa, okay. So I feel like I'm telling the whole story.
Yeah. No, that's it.
And then the next day, I was trying to invent a reason to see him. And as I'm sitting there on the couch, like thinking like, what kind of party can I throw now? Like, what can I do? He texts me and he's like, hey, I'd love to go get something to eat. Oh my gosh, here my hyper spiritual self goes, I'm actually fasting today. I'm like, girl, what? When I thought about it later. But then he says, he goes, that's okay. We don't have to eat anything. I just want to hear your heart. And I was like, what book is he getting these lines from? Wait a minute. But I was like, oh my gosh. Because I'm a poet too. So like words, like that's my love language. So I was just like, oh my gosh. So I was like, sure, you can meet up with me this time. I'm breaking my fast at this time. And you know, you can come over. And also I have a couple friends coming over too. Kind of doing like a little group thing. I called those friends, hey, y'all want to come over? And he showed up. And we took a walk. I'm telling the whole story, babe.
That's fine.
It's like I'm reliving it though.
Reimagining it.
So he showed up, we took a walk, and when I tell you there was no small talk, he was like, how was your day? I was like, it was good. I did this. And then he was like, okay, cool. So I've been talking to the Lord about you. And God showed me that people have said the men have said they were going to do things and they haven't actually come through with what they said. And everything he was saying was so specific and so right on. And he was like, but I'm not here for that. I'm here to be intentional with you. And like, he was saying it with so much precision, but he was shaking. It was like so endearing because the confidence and the truth behind what he was saying was not
was I
matching.
shaking or were you shaking?
You were shaking.
I was shaking. Oh.
You were shaking. You were like, so I've been talking to the Lord about you. And I was like, oh, he's shaking, but it's
I was
right.
holding your hand or something? Was shaking?
No, we weren't holding hands yet. I'm from the South. We didn't hold hands in that.
So when he came rush and take out the suitcase and thing and going up the steps, So and the moment I reached up there, I went inside and, I say, tell my mother and my sister, this guy is out there. He says he's interested in me. But I don't know. And they say, poor you. Yeah. So they say, well, it's not his outward appearance, and so that's what my sister say. But it's his heart, So okay. So we went back out, and we sat there together, and then he wanted to see pictures and so on. So I went in there, get my album, show him all the different pictures. He said, can I have a picture? I said, I don't usually give away my pictures. So I didn't give him right away. Then he said, can you play something for me on the piano? Yeah. So, sure, so I went and I play my piece on the piano.
That was just for time, I'm not musically inclined.
Just trying something, because I'm into it. So I played a thing, but when he was ready to leave now, he said, up to now you haven't said if you're interested or what, But then I did give him the picture. So I said, well, I don't usually give away my pictures, but you got one, I said, but good things come to those that wait, so you wait. And then he said, okay, I'll come back and see you before I leave, I'll come back Friday, okay. Yeah, so he came back. So when he came back now, my little niece came running up, Auntie Patsy, that guy that came the last time, he's back. My heart beating fast now, Yeah. So then finally he was leaving, and then he still wanted to hear what I said, good things come to those that wait, so you wait. So he said, well, when I reach on the boat.
At the time, we were traveling by boat, you know.
He said, when I reach on, I will write you at every port. I said, oh, time you reach on that, you forget all about me. He said, no, you mustn't say that. You mustn't say that. I said, okay. And every port he wrote me a letter because the mailman was just put your ship. Every time I was getting this mail, and my sisters and everybody say, I mean, the mailman must be wondering, who is this person?
I was young. I was probably like 21, but God spoke to me, or the Holy Spirit spoke to me, and it was just a feeling as well. It was like, it was like I had been ripped from my soulmate, really. That was definitely the moment that I realized, like, wow, like I'm really in love with this guy and he is the one I'm supposed to be with.
We took a picture, me, her, and one of our other good brother friends. She posted a picture and she said, "With my brothers in Christ." Yeah, she did that. So with that being said, I had to step to her. I don't want any blurred lines. I said, "Look, I'm not trying to be your brother." So then she knew what was up, like without a doubt, because I had to be straightforward. I don't want to beat around the bush. I'm a grown man. She was grown. We're adults. Mm-hmm. I want you. I'm not playing the like your picture game. I'm not playing the poke you game, whatever those terms are for social media. No, I want you. This is what I want. I was very direct, and that's just how I was raised. And I remember when I was telling her this, it touched my heart because she, in talking to her about it, she actually said, "Lee, I want to thank you for something." And I said, "What's that?" And she said, "I want to thank you for being so transparent." Because a lot of guys are very like, "Hey, tell so and so." Oh, no, this is just me and you, So there was no question. So I appreciated her acknowledging the fact that she liked that I was so direct.
So no, I just realized that there's no time to waste, really, if you want something, and I desired at that point, or to be married became a stronger desire. And so, I prayed and I asked the Lord to not reveal to me somebody, not per se like that, but I made a decision that whenever I had an opportunity to entertain or come across another good woman, instead of being unintentional, I would make that work. I was determined whenever that next opportunity would be to make that something worthwhile, and it just so happens that it was this one here.
They could say they've seen the highest mountain, bottom of the deepest sea, but no one's ever seen a love like this. Ooh.